Yeah, 10 years. It's really amazing. And I'm just going to clap. When the time came to pass on the reins, that was the first person I wanted to pass them to. So, thanks. All right. I'm going to read just a couple pages from my novel to be called We Have a Country. And I'll just start it off. The mall, the excellent mall. Patricia and Hector were in Serramonte, a suburb on the outskirts of San Francisco. The mall was called the Serramonte Center. Does anybody know the Serramonte Center? Yeah? Nobody? Somebody? Okay. There's a mall in Serramonte. And the parking lot was as big as 20 San Francisco city blocks. They pulled into the parking lot. God, I hate it already, Patricia said. Meanwhile, people crossed before them with their shopping carts filled with bags and more bags, many colorful boxes. Patricia looked up at the Great Lands sign. Has everybody been at the Great Lands? There's like a Great Land on one side and a Great Land on the other side. The Target Great Land. There's two Great Lands. I never know what Great Land to go to because they're both great. But anyway, the sun coming down over the building. Hector clapped his hands together. They got out of their car, walked through the Target toward their destination, the video game store that had the game Hector was seeking. All the stores in San Francisco apparently sold out. And Patricia looked around. There weren't very many people here. The mall smelled like fragrance, and they neared its center. There was the aroma of grease and salt from the food court upstairs. A gaggle of young girls, a little older than Hector, passed him by, but he seemed to pay no notice. The girls, meanwhile, paid Hector notice all right. And it occurred to Patricia that here was a good-looking boy. In a few years he'd be fighting them off. But not yet. The boy, just 11. She knew what a difference a few years would make. Then there was the GameStop. And sure enough, they had Hector's Dragon game. Just one left, so he was a lucky puppy, as a squeaky-voiced kid behind the counter explained. He handed the game over. Hector looked it over and then at Patricia. Lucky puppy, she said. Outside the store, they sat down on a bench so Hector could look at his box. That's what he said he wanted to do, look at his box. She sat there beside him, glanced from one end of the mall to the other. All these stores with their brightly lit floors, everything so shiny. A girl walked by yelling into her iPhone. A harried-looking middle-aged woman clicked her ballpoint pen and looked from store to store. Patricia crossed her arms, closed her eyes tightly. She wanted this to be over, this time in the mall. But she also wanted Hector to enjoy what just happened, that is, the purchase of this game, to take it in. She covered her face with her hands, glanced through her fingers. It was in that moment that she saw something above her, the shadow of a bird. Only this couldn't be a bird inside a mall now, could it? She shot her eyes upward. A spinning black shadow moved before her, something spinning, the whir of a blade. She ducked. "What the heck?" said Hector. "What?" Laughter from behind her. The object came back towards them. More laughter. This time from more than one person. Patricia stood, ran for cover behind a potted tree. Hector just sat on the bench looking at his beloved game, or holding his beloved game. And what she saw was that this bird wasn't a toy, or was a toy. And what kind of toy? It looked like a helicopter, or maybe some kind of drone. Was this a drone? She'd seen pictures of them on the internet, a video of them on the television news. Patricia stood behind her bench. An older man told her she'd almost been taken out. "You could have been scalped," he said, laughing. "That's funny?" The man wore a hat and a blue shirt with its sleeves rolled up around his elbows. "I don't think it really could have hurt you." "Easy for you to say." He told her it was a toy. "A toy! It's not real," he said. "Real or not, it could hurt a person." "It was fun." "We'll see about that," answered Patricia. The helicopter continued to fly in circles. She walked toward it and tried to locate the person at the controls. She followed the laughter coming from a booth nearby. The booth was surrounded by various toy helicopters and airplanes, and sure enough, there was a youngish man pointing his remote control at the helicopter. The helicopter dipped, and she jumped up toward it, missed it by inches. "What are you doing?" said the man. "You almost hit me." "But I didn't." With that, she jumped again. The helicopter dipped and went higher. By now, she had an audience. While moments earlier, the mall had seemed empty, now there was a crowd. Each time she jumped and missed, the laughter came louder. She felt like an idiot jumping, but she was infuriated. The man swooping down on her with this toy from nowhere, scaring the hell out of her. What he'd done had been wrong. That's what she wanted to tell all these laughing people. "It's not right," she said. More laughter. She jumped again and again. People were coming out from the stores, the workers too. From beside her, she eyed a security guard. "Fine," she said. "You win, you win." The laughter subsided. She began to walk away. Hector came up beside her, telling her it wasn't a big deal. "Ignore it," he said. It was then that she turned quickly, and there was a helicopter again, spinning before her, right there in her face. She jumped for it, grabbed the helicopter as it remained airborne, and wobbled in her hands. The propeller went still. "Damn this thing," she yelled. The helicopter or drone or whatever the hell it is, "This is wrong." Gasps were audible, the man at the controls yelling for her to stop, stop, even as she threw the helicopter on the ground and began to stomp. "Please, no," he said. There was a security guard pulling her away. "You shouldn't have done that with your helicopter," she said. "It's not mine." Someone from the crowd, a kid around Hector's age, picked up the helicopter. His propeller sickly turned, making a whining noise. There were wires sticking out from its tail and sparks that emitted from its underside. The boy dropped the helicopter and it sputtered to quiet. The security guard let her go. "Ma'am," he said, "you destroyed the toy." "He tried to destroy me." "I didn't," said the man. "It's what I do. Thomas, tell him it's what I do." "It's what he does." Patricia laughed meanly, out of breath. "He scares people?" "It's called marketing," said the man. "I fly the helicopter and it grabs their attention. They walk over to the booth." "There's a difference between harassment and marketing," answered Patricia. "Arrest her," said the man. "You'll do no such thing," Patricia answered. The security guard was obviously at a loss as to what was the course of action to take. He reached for his radio, told Patricia to stay put as he called for a superior. "Manuel," he said into his walkie-talkie, "we got a situation here on 1G4. There was a pause. Manuel squawking back. "Situation," he said. "Situation? Back up on its way." "Good, good." The guard paused. "It's not a huge deal," he said in the radio. "It's not a holdup." "Not a holdup. Over. Roger that." Everyone stood around waiting to see where things would go from here. This mad woman smashing the toy helicopter, the hand of the law interceding. Of course they were expecting more jumping and screaming, so she'd give them the complete opposite. Patricia went subdued, looked down at the smashed bits. "I was upset is all," she told the guard. "I could pay for it." "You could," he said as if it hadn't occurred to him, that this was a way of dealing with things. Patricia said she could, bent down to pick up the pieces. "Not good," said Hector, and picked up some pieces as well. Manuel showed up running. His uniform barely fit him, his stomach ballooning over his belt, his buttons nearly popping. He perspired from head to neck, his hair damp. "This is a perpetrator?" he said, inching toward her. Thomas, the security guard, said it was. "Well," asked Manuel, "what have you got to say for yourself?" This was obviously the line Manuel relished saying, his giving it an extra flourish as he took into consideration this crowd of onlookers. He sweated even more, his face a wet blob, sweat beads hanging from his nose and eyebrows that he wiped with his forearm. Patricia looked at the destruction she created for herself, studying the man at the helicopter controls. It was the first time she'd really seen him, someone who'd obviously spent most of his days indoors, given his gray pallor. He looked as if he was of Mediterranean origin, but with the heavy beard that lurked just beneath the shaved complexion. He was compact and hunched over, wearing a collared short-sleeved shirt. He had dark eyes, his hair nearly black. She judged his age to be about 30, maybe a few years younger. "I came here with a neighbor's kid," she said, pointing to Hector. "I didn't want anything to happen like this. Really, I didn't." "Well, it did," said Manuel. Thomas said, "He wants to arrest her." "Who?" "Blackhawk." His name was Blackhawk? Obviously a nickname. And I think I'll stop there. Thanks.